That went about as well as I could have suspected. What if Gambit exploded a person? In the last episode of Because Science, we were trying to figure out just how energetic Gambit's famous playing cards could be. And I said that they'd be less energetic than a hand grenade, about 25 times less, which means it doesn't really fit canonically what the comics say they are as energetic as. But one of you in the comments on the YouTube video asked, well, Gambit once threatened to charge a person with his powers. How would that go down? What kind of explosion would that be like? Well, there's a very interesting paper about the caloric content of cannibalism, how many calories you can get out of cannibalism, and it gives you different values for different parts of the body. Now, those parts range, they're everything from your skeleton to your skin to your fat to your bone marrow, all of it. And if you separate it out, you could get about 36 calories, food calories with a capital C, from eating teeth. And about 25,000 calories just from eating someone's whole skeleton. That's a lot of bones in there. You could get around 5,000 calories from eating someone's entire head. You could get 50,000 from eating all of someone's fat, on average. You could get 2,000 or so from eating someone's brain, 1,500 from devouring some tasty, tasty lungs, and 1,200 if you slurped up someone's entire gastrointestinal tract, kind of like a sausage. Like a pre-sausage, because they use intestines and make... Anyway, so if you average out all of these values for an average-sized human male, you get the number of calories that Gambit would have to work with. Now, this is what we did for Gambit's playing cards. We got the number of calories, and joules, converted it to joules. We got the number of joules in total that he would be able to release from the chemical potential energy. So let's add up all of the chemical potential energy here in a human body from a cannibalism study in the form of calories. And you find that it is around 200,000 calories. Now, that is quite a bit. It is not like nuclear explosion levels or anything. This is almost exactly, within an order of magnitude, it is almost exactly the amount of energy that is in a hand grenade. Right around 1 million joules worth of energy. So, if Gambit was to charge a person using just the chemical potential energy of all that person's body parts, from their tasty teeth to their luscious lungs, you would get about a 1 megajoule explosion, which would be around that of a hand grenade, and then, canonically, it would be just energetic enough. Hello and welcome to another edition of Because Science Live, the live stream that accompanies this channel where I take all of your comments, questions, and corrections and weird comments about this place. And I address them off the top of my head and try to come up with the nerdiest possible, mostly correct answer. Look, I'm not an expert, I'm not a doctor, I'm not even a working scientist, but I know a little bit about a lot of sciencey stuff, so consider me your nerdy guide through pop culture and science. Ask me whatever you got. Also, if you want to know anything more practical about me and this channel, today is a very good day to ask it, because technically today, the best kind of today, is the 1 year anniversary of since the channel launched, Because Science. We've been doing Because Science, the show, for almost 5 years now on Nerdist and then its own channel, but the channel has been up for today 1 year. We've done around 130 videos total in that time. Tens of millions of views, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Obviously cannot do it without you and all of your extreme nerdery, so thank you for making this part of my life possible. And Nate, what do we got?
Yeah, I'm here.
Whoa, hey.
From Blade of the Hero.
Oh, nice try, kid, but I've spent years studying the blade. Nothing personal. Nate, you can stop me whenever you want to.
How does oxygen dissolve in water?
How does oxygen dissolve in water? Well, gases are soluble in water, and that is why you can insert something like carbon dioxide into water and make it all fizzy and make it into one of your drinks. There are pressures based on the pressures of, based on like the ambient pressure. So inside of a soda can versus outside of a soda can, gas will dissolve into the water into the liquid at the interface based on those pressures, more or less. So just in normal Earth atmosphere, some amount of gas will dissolve into the amount of water that you have. But those depend on what is using the oxygen in the water, the pressure, the temperature, all these things. So to answer your question, naturally gas just dissolves into water. But you have to be very careful about the rates and the amounts if you are getting more complicated. If you want to do something, if you want to make soda, you have to increase the pressure to force more gas into the soda, into the liquid, than it otherwise would have. That's how you get fizzy soda that's fizzy for a long amount of time, and that's why you get the when you open it, because you're changing the ambient pressure, which not as much gas can therefore be inside the liquid, and it wants to escape. Or if you have something like a goldfish and you just have a fish bowl, it depends how much surface area is available to transfer oxygen at the interface of the bowl that you have for your fish will determine if enough oxygen will get in to keep that fish alive. That's why when you have something like an aquarium with more fish in it, you have to supplement that natural dissolving process with an aerator, or how nature does it naturally. You can have something like a babbling brook, small streams, little overflows where there's like mini waterfalls and even big waterfalls that naturally aerate the water and put more oxygen into it so that fish can survive. And that's also what hippo poop takes out if you watch the latest footnotes. So I think I answered something. What's next?
From Chaos Genie.
Oh, don't wish on him.
I'm an amateur climber who sometimes gets to my local climbing gym.
Okay.
In your experience, are there any must-visit places for all climbers that could make a goal of?
Must-visit places. So if you follow me at all, you know that I am a rock climbing enthusiast as well. I've been climbing 11 years or so, twice a week for the last 11 years on average. But you know, I'm going to be completely honest. I'm kind of a gym rat. I do not go outside to climb on real rock as much because of the time commitment. I spend most of my time, most of my living time on this planet making Because Science and doing the research and doing the writing and the scripting and all that stuff. So I don't have, you know, entire weekends to go to a place like Kentucky or to Hueco Tanks or something like that, some of these bouldering and top rope meccas, sport climbing meccas that you'd really want to visit if you're in the United States. I spend most of my time just at rock climbing gyms, and there's probably a number of really good ones in your area, and I like the variability and problems, especially with bouldering, and the different physical challenges of that. So yeah, to answer your question, because of the time commitment, because of the many hours drive and, you know, crash pads and all these things that you need to buy and all the gear and all the equipment, all the people you need to bring with you, I usually don't go outside. But if you wanted to go to one place, I would go to the places that are as famous as they are because they are so good, whether it be Red River Gorge in Kentucky or Hueco Tanks or the Buttermilks in California. Those kind of places, those are the big places because they're a heck of a thing. But, you know, there's no shame in just going to the gym and just getting it. I mean, other climbers look down on people who only spend time in the gym, but whatever. You're getting to the top of something. Nate.
Yep.
Save me.
Okay. From David Willard.
Hello, David.
Love your show.
Thank you.
Who would be the best basketball player among all superheroes?
What? The best basketball player among superheroes? It depends on how the game is structured, I guess, because you'd have so many. I mean, think of how many different speedsters there are in superhero canon. They would be able to do a full court press, 1 million times a second or whatever, if they're the Flash. So they'd be extremely good. Then you have people like Mr. Fantastic, who could do a Space Jam style dunk from across the way just by extending his arm, and that would be pretty good. You could have people like Domino. the mutant, I believe, the mutant domino who could affect the probability of every 3-point shot such that it raises the chances, and it would make Steph Curry look like an idiot in comparison. I think that would be pretty good. Domino would be really good if you're trying to do like a non-overpowered game, because she could take advantages of statistical things like free throw percentages and the hot hand phenomenon to really dominate a game. You pass it to her, she's gonna make it. That'd be awesome. What's next?
From Loopy Lurchy Lego.
Don't know what I think about that.
This channel is 1 year old.
It's true.
Where will you get inspiration from 5 years from now?
Well, if I'm alive in 5 years, where will I still be getting inspiration? I think was the comment, right?
Yeah.
If I'm still alive. Look, I do spend a lot of my time looking for new ideas. As long as pop culture keeps creating things, I'm always going to have things to talk about. But 5 years from now, what I'd really want to see this channel do is expand, not just vertically, but horizontally. So to add even more videos, or even more people talking about a variety of different things that I'm not necessarily even a half expert in. If you can get topics that either deal with highly technical subjects where you can get more expert advice, or very, very basic subjects. I'd love to do a line of videos that are kind of like Because Science Basics, where you could just do, this is how to calculate how hard a punch is. And it's just like basically just like a one lesson physics kind of thing. I would love to do stuff like that. 5 years from now, hard to say. Come on, man. It's hard to even think about what's happening 1 week from now. You know it these days. 5 years from now, I'd still like to be doing science communication. I mean, I can't see myself doing anything else. Nate?
Yep. From Adrian Chiroles.
There's a lot of dead air there, Nate.
I thought you were contemplating.
No, I was floating in nothingness.
Could I pull myself through space with a vacuum cleaner?
What? Could you pull yourself through space with a vacuum cleaner? No. How does a vacuum cleaner work? A vacuum cleaner, if you have, this is going to be the best drawing of a vacuum cleaner ever done in real time by a human being. So if you have a vacuum, not that bad. If you have a vacuum cleaner here, how does a vacuum cleaner work? Well, you are spinning fans or rotors or whatever the heck the guy from... Who's the billionaire who has all the different kinds of suction? What's his name? Dyson. Yes, if you have Dyson, whatever he says is spinning in there, the tornado vortex technology or whatever he says, you have stuff that's spinning really quick inside of a vacuum. And what that does is it's moving air quickly. And when air moves quickly, or a fluid moves quickly, the pressure of that stuff drops. And if it spins quickly enough, the pressure can drop enough that the ambient the ambient pressure outside of the vacuum is high enough in relation to the low pressure here. It's high enough to start creating a movement of air. And this movement of air is what suction is. It's not really... suction doesn't work in the way you think it does. It's more... Suction is the Earth's atmosphere, all of it, pushing something into an area of low pressure. So when you drink water through a straw, you increase the volume of your mouth. You increase the volume of your mouth and your lungs and whatever. You increase that volume, and that creates an area of low pressure. And then the atmosphere outside is then higher, and the atmosphere pushes water into your mouth because it's lower pressure in there. So that's what's happening inside of a vacuum. So let's think about doing this in space. What would happen? You start spinning a thing really fast, creates an area of low pressure here, or it would if there were any air. So if there's no air in space, there is some material in space, but it's nothing like what we would consider breathable air or movable air like a breeze. There's no low pressure area here in effect, which means there's no higher pressure air that's going to move into the vacuum, which means there's not going to be any movement of air here. Now I wonder though, if space did have air, but you were in 0 G, air is moving into it. Mass is moving into the vacuum. And if that was the case, you'd probably go the other way. You could ride it like a witch rides a broom. I think if space had air and in 0 G and everything else stayed the same and it was like no breezes or temperature differences or anything like, air would be moving into the vacuum, hitting the back of the vacuum bag and pushing you slightly in one direction. Like Zayn. It's a One Direction joke. But in space, there's no air. There's not going to be any movement into the vacuum cleaner. And so in space, no one can hear you clean. Oh, man. RIP headphone users. I don't even care. I nailed that. This is one of those times, Nate.
From Twilight Lupine Sylvia.
Wow. Man.
Could Indiana Jones really survive in a refrigerator?
Okay, so I think what you mean to say is that if there was a nuclear explosion and you hid inside of a regular old, if there was a nuclear blast and you hid yourself inside a refrigerator, would you survive? I don't know. I would think that there is some distance at which you could be in a refrigerator, still feel some kind of shockwave, and survive. Now, I haven't seen Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull because I refuse to, but I've seen clips, and it looks like Dr. Jones is close enough to the nuclear blast such that the blast wave throws the refrigerator. And if that's the case, he's probably close enough that the fireball, the expanding fireball created from an instantaneous release of a spherical shell of X-rays in every direction, this fireball and the radiation, the fallout, if you will, the radiation produced and the radiation dose that he would receive if he was that close to be thrown, is probably going to kill him. The thin walls, relatively thin walls of a refrigerator aren't going to do much for the radiation. You want something, you want a thick barrier of dense-ish stuff. Water is good, concrete is good, but thin aluminum and some foam padding for insulation, not going to help you out with radiation so much, or temperature better than a bunker or something like that. So would he survive? I don't know. It really depends on how close he is. Even for something like, my point is, it looked like he was pretty dang close. And even for a small nuclear device, the smallest nuclear device like the Davy Crockett warhead, which we talked about in a recent Fallout episode, if you were within a quarter of a mile of that blast, it's enough to give you a nearly lethal dose of radiation. And it looked like he was closer than a quarter mile, right? Or at least he was close enough to get thrown. So depends a lot on the distance, but I don't think this is a foolproof way to survive. No.
From Tariq Taylor.
You nailed it.
How do you feel about anime? If you like it, what's your favorite?
In general?
Yeah.
What? Oh, just in general?
Yeah.
How do I feel about anime? Anime's dope, dude. I don't know. I'm not an aficionado of anime, but I grew up watching. I grew up watching anime when it was introduced to me through a Cartoon Network lineup called Toonami. And maybe many of you had that too. So I was introduced to a lot of shonen anime like Dragon Ball Z, Bleach, those kind of things. I'm not a big Naruto guy because I haven't seen it much, but like Rurouni Kenshin, these kind of things. Anime is great, and One Punch Man I'm super hyped for because it's an intelligent parody of all that stuff that I grew up on, and Dragon Ball Z and stuff. So yeah, big fan, big fan. Why not? I should do more anime episodes. I know I should do my Hero Academia episodes, but I need to watch the series first. So I'll do that. I'll do that. I promise.
From Cody Shupp.
Wow, getting real fast on the draw there, Nate.
Is it possible to make liquid wood?
What? Liquid wood?
Yeah.
Like water wood? Is it possible to make liquid wood? Well, we would, depends on what you think wood is, I guess, because wood in plant form is a rigid thing, and its material properties, its strength, how the plant cells are arranged, making something that's rigid and not liquid, making a solid and not a liquid, makes something a wood in my eyes. But if you just wanted to liquefy something that makes up the wood, like cellulose, I don't know if you can have liquid cellulose. I think it would be like a pulpy, kind of gooey stuff. But in some respect, I think you could probably call that a kind of liquid wood. Would it do any of the things that wood does? No. But you could have the constituents of wood in a non-solid form. I mean, if you want to call smoke, like wood smoke, wood gas, I mean, there's some interpretation where that's true. Where are these weird questions coming from? These are weird questions. And it's not like I started out weird. I was only trying to tell you how many calories there would be in a meal of just teeth. What's next?
From Freddy Gamer TV.
You'd have to eat a lot of teeth. Look how many sets of teeth. What's the average amount, what's the average caloric intake for, let's just go with, since we're using this, an average adult male, 2,000 or so, maybe a little bit more. That means, that's more than 5 people's worth of teeth you'd need a day. I need more than 5. What am I, dumb? Maybe. It's like 50. It's like 50 teeth. Yeah. You need 50 sets of teeth a day to eat. I'm sorry, what?
From Freddy Gamer TV.
Thank you.
How can we generate electricity inside our body?
Well, first you'd want to put a tiny water wheel in your stomach and then drink a lot of water. No, I mean, I think maybe you're getting at the idea of bioelectricity. The fact that as our body does its bodily things, metabolism, electrons move throughout our body, and there's some semblance of charge there, and you can as electrical potential moves along the axons in our brain cells, our neurons, for example, that's some kind of electricity, right? But to generate electricity inside of our body, something that you could use in a matrix-like fashion, I don't think we have anything like that, and if we did, it'd be very inefficient. Have you tried? I mean, think of it if you really went at it. Have you ever tried at like a museum or something like that to get on a bicycle wired to a light bulb and see how long you could power the light bulb? It's incredibly taxing, and that's why modern energy solutions are so reinvented society. It's because you remove the human effort element. I don't think you can get more than, I looked into this once. If you're talking bioelectricity, it's like millivolts, like stuff that couldn't run like an old school wristwatch from a human body, which makes bioelectricity as some kind of energy source a bad one. You hear that, Wachowskis? If you combine a nothing energy source with a fusion energy source, that's just fusion. It's so much more.
From Brucifer.
Nice.
Kyle, what do you think you would do for a living if you didn't work at Nerdist?
If I didn't work at Nerdist for a living, what would I be doing? I would be selling my hair on the street. No, I mean, I was going to be an engineer. I'm I took the professional engineer exam. I passed it. I have an engineering degree. I probably would have gone into an engineering job. But during my last year of college, I started science communicating for free by myself, just as a hobby, just to see if I could do it, because I was watching things like Cosmos and Mythbusters, and I wanted to try my hand in it. And I transitioned from engineering into communication for my graduate program. So this is exactly what I want to be doing and doing for all of you. So if I wasn't doing this, I'd probably fall back on my expertise, which would be doing some kind of engineering job. And if not that, who knows? Maybe I could just, I don't know, live stream me brushing my hair. Oh, that seems like more of a Patreon thing. Anyway.
All right, last one.
Last question.
From Spider221.
I see a lot of people making a lot of money doing stuff like that on Patreon. Kyle's brushing his hair on Patreon.
Who's your favorite from Fantastic Four? Also, what is one of their powers you would want?
Well, what did we say? We said that you do not want invisibility, probably. So Miss Storm is out. And the Human Torch... There's an episode on my list is how does the Human Torch fly? I want to get to that. And I think that would be a cool power. Who's the other one? The Thing? You want to be Rox? No one wants to be the Thing. I think I'd go with, wait, is it Johnny Storm? Is it Susan Storm? Johnny Blaze?
No, Johnny Storm.
Johnny Storm. Susan Storm is the Invisible Woman?
Yep.
Are they related?
Yes, brother and sister.
Huh. I didn't see those films. Not many people did. I'd go with Johnny Storm if I had to pick. And maybe we'll get to that as a superpower that you may or may not want. Ooh. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Because Science Live. Wow, we didn't cover very many sciencey things, but but that's fine. It's the 1-year anniversary of this channel. I hope that I answered your questions and that I was at least somewhat entertaining. Thank you so much for watching all the different videos this week. Sorry that I was off last week for the live stream, but I was under the weather, and if you're an astronaut, you can never be that. But next week, new vlog, new episode, new live stream. Join me there. Have a wonderful weekend, and remember, be nice to each other, because why wouldn't you be?